Shalom and welcome to Practical Spirituality here in the Old City of Jerusalem at Esha Torah overlooking the Temple Mount. Today we're discussing the separation of sexes, and it comes ultimately from a little conversation I was having with on WhatsApp with a new student who's not that new because he had been here years ago. And I was asking him, is your wife as inspired about Judaism as you are? And he says, well, she's kind of takes issue with the separation of sexes, which made me think for a moment. Because when exactly are the sexes separated except at weddings and synagogue? And then I realized that when you live in America, Judaism takes place in synagogue. So when you live in Israel, synagogue's like the least of your worries when it comes to Judaism, because Judaism takes place when you walk down Jaffa Street. You realize how Jewish it is here? Like your Jewish life. I mean, you go sit in the square and see what comes up in conversation. You'll be shocked to find that you're once again talking about the meaning of life, and that you're right back to like the whole purpose of everything. And you go get a beer in the shuk. All those bars now in the shuk, which are a blast. And I'm the rabbi of Beer Bazaar, so I suggest Beer Bazaar not because I'm the rabbi there. I just think it's got superior beer, and I like the fact that the meat comes from the Chafetz Chaim butcher, which means all the meat's mahadran. Anyway, by the way, just to give a plug as well to what's the other place there? Crick. There's another Glock kosher brewery, Hatch. Put the word out to Hatch, and then of course there's what's that other place with the food over there? Crave. Yeah, got to bring up Crave there. All my friends, each place. And also Selfie's yogurt, the best frozen yogurt ever. I've just never experienced anything quite like that frozen yogurt, which is on Agrippus. Everyone should go there as well. Support your Westerners making money off you by serving delicious handcrafted stuff. So where we're holding is this guy said that he doesn't like the separation of the sexes, which of course would never come up here in Israel because Judaism is always, and there's no separation of sexes unless you went to a wedding or you're in shul. But Judaism's all the time. It's like everywhere you go, you're involved in Judaism. And this is why I pity the fool who's trying to become observant outside of Israel, because you don't know which direction to hold a sitter. You're holding your prayer book upside down, and you're stuck meeting your host who's going to have you over for Shabbos in synagogue, which is like probably the most uncomfortable thing in the world, is to be a non-observant Jew and walk into an Orthodox synagogue and somehow like not want to die every minute you're in there. Whereas in Israel, you never ever have to show up in a synagogue until you're well ready for the experience and totally initiated in the process of prayer, and at that point you can head to your first synagogue. And of course the most famous synagogue in all of Israel is the loosest place maybe in the whole country besides Tel Aviv, and that's the Kotel, where it's just come as you are, do whatever you want. There's absolutely no rules, and you can just feel so Jewish and put your own prayer out there or put it in the wall or do whatever you want. So it's such an idyllic place. And so anyone who's trying to get strong in their Judaism should just stop trying and start dialing a travel agent and get yourself over to Israel for like 3 weeks or something, where you don't have to try. It's just a natural progression because the air of Israel itself brings you close to God and Torah, the air itself. Now, of course, everyone knows there are secular Israelis running around, but that's only because they're Ashkenazi. If it wasn't for the Ashkenazim, it would be a total Torah experience everywhere. But there's something interesting about Ashkenazim is Sephardic Jews have spent the last 2,000 years in exile with fully observant Muslims. Belief in God is part of the fabric of society. And if they're not going to be a good Muslim, they could be a bad Muslim, but they're not going to discard God to assuage their bad behavior. Sephardic Jews are the same. They may not be the best Jew in the world. They may not keep Torah, but they're not going to say that Torah isn't divine, they're not going to say there's no God. That's just not one of the cards on the table. That's like they're not going to discard the very fabric of reality, which is God and prophecy. That's not available to. So yeah, you're going to be feeling really guilty about your life. You'll feel real guilty. If you get wealthy, maybe you'll dedicate a synagogue or something. They're very good at donating stuff to feel better about themselves. And obviously there's plenty of Sephardic Jews who donate things that aren't just trying to feel better about themselves. But when it comes to Ashkenazim spent the last 2,000 years with atheist philosophers. Greek philosophy, atheist philosophy, nihilistic philosophy, materialist philosophy. And if you want to say, well, there were Christians, no offense to Christians, but to me, if you understand like real theology, like actual prophetic theology, so Christianity's atheism. I'm going to say that again. If you really understand pure Torah prophetic theology, so even the most deep Christian belief is atheism. It's just a European amalgamation of atheist proposition. And sorry, those are a lot of 3-4 syllable words, but it's just atheism, ultimately. When compared to Jewish theology, now compared to the average Westerner, it's theology, it's Christian theology. And since I'm on that subject, I just want to mention real quick something very important. Just for those who are involved in the intellectual dark web and like watching people like Sam Harris, who's an outspoken atheist, Jew, of course, and Ashkenazi, and but just for the people who are interested in the intellectual dark web and listen to those atheists, they should realize that that the God that they're denying was ultimately denied when science got developed in a major way. When science hit its revolution, which is the world we live in, where science explains just so much and more every year. What happened was, for Gentiles, theology was really built out of the questions of our environment that we just didn't understand. Meaning human beings never understood their world they lived in. And so for every question mark, they put God there. So, well, that's God, like God's what sticks you to the earth. Like, how come we don't just fly out into space and God keeps us here? There was no understanding of gravity. It was God that was keeping you together. And what keeps our earth in orbit around the sun? God. That's God, God's doing that. And, everything was God. Every question mark you had was God. And that's the basis of Christian theology is it answered the questions that were not answered by science because science wasn't developed enough. Which makes sense why when someone said the sun was at the center instead of the earth was at the center, I think they persecuted him. Maybe they killed him. I don't know what they did. Who was that? Copernicus, was it? Galileo? Yeah, did he get persecuted for that? He wasn't killed for it, though. Anyway, but you can understand why, because God already is God obviously put us in the center, and it's just part of the answer. But anyway, so when science hit and they were able to describe things physically, like our physical world became describable via science and math and physics and stuff. So they're like, we don't need God. They're like, we don't need a God. God, we understand this stuff now. So we understand enough about the physical world. We don't need God anymore. But tell me, was Jewish theology built out of our question marks? Is that where Jewish theology comes from? It has nothing to do with Jewish theology. Jewish theology has nothing to do with questions we have. Jewish theology was built out of a slave nation that received a prophetic revelation. And that's all we know about God. That's it. Everything we know from A to Z that we know about God is only coming from the revelation at Sinai. That's it. That's what we know about God. Nothing to do with answering life's mysteries. And so for a Jew whose basis for God is based on a prophetic experience at Sinai, to think that they have a secular atheist, meaning post-science conflict with religion atheist, as the reason why they don't keep Shabbat or keep kosher or make blessings on their food or all the other laws in Judaism. If they want to make that, there's a seat right here, bro. I'm interrupting class just for you. 2 seats.
Sit on his lap.
It was so loud already, I decided just to bang it. You can't use the secular argument against God if you're Jewish. If you're a Christian, it makes sense. If you're Jewish, it doesn't hold any water. It's not where Judaism's God came from. We didn't posit God to answer questions about the world we didn't understand. Can anyone repeat that? I'm just wondering, because when I say this, sometimes people look puzzled. Is anyone in the room able to repeat that quickly and succinctly, what I just said? You can say, yeah, you're good. You got yesterday's too. You got it? Okay, I'll give, because you got yesterday, I'll give this one to Peter. Peter, can you just say that back real quick?
About the Christianity or about the...
Why a Jew can't use modern atheist conflict with science?
Because as I understand what you said, that their argument is that God or theology fills in the spaces of the things that we don't know, is meant to answer or fill in that space. And now that we have so many answers, we don't need any, there's no place for theology.
Whereas Judaism
isn't like that. I don't remember what you said about Judaism, why that's specifically defined.
Fill in the blank?
It's just that if you're approaching the whole thing of God with the premise that he's there to fill in gaps, well then when something else fills in those gaps, then you're left thinking there's no God. If you come in with the intention of like, oh, God isn't there to fill in gaps, he's just there, and it's impossible to disprove because he's not there to, it's not like, oh, if you don't have something to solve with, there's God, he's there either way. And that's what that's the Judaism approach, whereas Christianity is more of atheism or the Greek philosophy is more of an intellectual proving problems that we have.
Okay, that's pretty good. And the only other thing I added was that our relationship to God is based on thousands of years of prophecy.
Right.
It's not like a made-up thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's you realize also we don't have, I mean, who would you attribute our theology to? Is there one character you can attribute our theology to? Avram, Moses. Yeah, Avram. Okay, great. What did Avram say about God?
There is one.
That there is one. And what did Moses say about God?
He saw God.
That there is one. I mean, thank you very much. And that's not exactly, much. So, but what we do have about God is what the prophecies are, the actual Torah. Okay. All right. Here we go. Separation of sexes. So the person said that his wife had issue with that, and what I wanted to share is that this is going to sound a little funny, but I'm thinking even to restart this whole class. So just because someone shouldn't have to sift through it, I'll retitle it. Okay.